Jai Hind everyone, I am Dr. Monica Agrawal. My subject Soft Skill 1, Code KNC 101. The topic of today's lecture is interpersonal communication. The content is, first of all, we will try to understand what is meant by interpersonal communication, then what are the features of interpersonal communication, what are the methods for interpersonal communication, and what are the underlying principles and the requisites of interpersonal communication. First of all, we must be reminded of that every time when we communicate with other people or a person, whether he is a friend or our parents or co-workers, other colleagues or some stranger, interpersonal communication occurs. Okay. So, when two people are at the same place and they are aware of each other's presence, they are in the state of interpersonal communication. No matter how unintended or unpremeditated that communication is, means consciously or unconsciously we are in a position or in a process of interpersonal communication. So, that is an ongoing process. Interpersonal communication is an ongoing process, and it is also an ever changing process, because that is not static. Okay. When you interact with the other person, you are in a position in a form of a dyad. Dyad means a pair of two symmetrical parts or an object which has two symmetrical aspects. The symmetry is there. Okay. We will understand how it is called symmetrical or a dyad. Both the individuals in that situation of communication, they share the responsibility for determining the nature of that relationship which exists between them. Okay. So, these two individuals are in a position or in a need to share some facts, some feelings, some emotions or other information for the purpose of creating an understanding. Okay. Because that understanding is going to lead them to cooperate. So, that is the ultimate need of communication in every situation. Here two people are involved in interpersonal communication, and their purpose is to enhance their understanding of each other and to fulfill one or the other work or to extend or seek cooperation. So, this is a small illustration to make us understand the process of communication, interpersonal communication this time, although it is a universal process of communication. This is one single unit in the process of communication. We know that the one end there is source. Okay. This source or is the encoder or the person who is the sender, initiator in the process of communication. He has some information to share with the other person, and he encodes the message, decides what to say, how to say, these are the things to be decided. Then the selection of channel is there, and then the message reaches to the source or the receiver. Okay. Receiver receives the message, decodes the message, then again selects a channel, and that goes back to the sender as the feedback. The response of the receiver goes back to the sender as a feedback, and here the sender becomes the receiver and the decoder, because the same function which was done by the receiver earlier is done now by the initial sender. So, this is how this cycle is complete. So, that is why we say that it is a dyad, because this is the half, the one half is the reflection of the other half, and the roles of sender and the receiver keep swiping. Okay. So, whatever features are there, whatever elements are there, they are for both the people involved in the process of communication, because whatever the sender is now going to understand from the response of the receiver who was earlier receiver, he is again going to further communicate something on the basis of that, unless and until the immediate objective is achieved. So, this is how this becomes a circular process. We can notice certain other features here like noise. Noise again we will understand in detail later, but noise is the some kind of disturbance here. Okay. okay, and that is for both the people because that exists in the atmosphere. There is a context. This context shows that every interpersonal communication or every communication happens in some context. That context may be some socio-cultural context, that may be related to work, that may be related to day-to-day life. It has certain context in which that communication takes place, okay. And this feed forward means the response goes back to the person as feed forward, and but the person receives it as the feedback. So this is how we can understand the process of communication in an interpersonal situation. So on the basis of the figure which we have just seen, we can find out certain features, okay, of interpersonal communication, that we know that it is about relationship. We know that the two people who are engaged in communication, they have certain relationship, whether defined or undefined, but they are in a state of connectivity at that time, and it takes two people because without two people there is no interpersonal communication, because before that when a person talks to his own self, that is the intrapersonal level, and when he or she comes out of his self, then it is the interpersonal communication. So necessarily there should be at least two different individuals involved. It is a bidirectional process. Bidirectional, we will understand how it is a bidirectional. It is bidirectional because the same process continues in both ways. It is not a one-sided sort of just giving and or receiving. Both the people send and receive, and that is why it is a bidirectional process. It is a dynamic process because it keeps on changing. It is continuous. It is irreversible, unique, and it is a lifelong project. Now the methods of interpersonal communication. How do we communicate when in a state of interpersonal communication? Okay. One and the very obvious type of communication, as we know already, that is verbal and non-verbal. This verbal means pertaining to words, non-verbal means not pertaining to words of any particular language. Okay. Other thing is that may be oral, that may be written, means verbal, oral or verbal, written. Okay. Non-verbal, oral, non-verbal, written also. When we communicate with the use of symbols and signs, there are no words, only other symbols and signs, with the meaning of which is commonly shared by both the people involved in the process of communication. Again, that there is non-verbal. Non-verbal without the use. Non-verbal is through body language. Okay. When we are there face to face, okay, the people are there in a face to face communication, and most of the interpersonal communication takes place in the oral form. Verbal and non-verbal go side by side simultaneously, because when we look at a person we also notice the body language and as well as the voice modulation. Voice modulation means the rise and fall of pitch, the stress, the amount of stress, the length of the pause the person takes, and so many things are there to determine the meaning of that message which is communicated. So our method may be verbal or non-verbal. These may also be taken as types, okay, and this is the basis of interpersonal communication, that non-verbal plays a wider role, greater role, as the researchers have found that when we communicate, when two people communicate, whatever we say, okay, it make up only 7% of the meaning of our message, which depends upon words. So words only make 7% of our interpersonal communication. Okay. Remaining 38% communication is done with the help of voice modulation, like pause, rhythm, how we give stress on certain word or certain part or certain syllable of word. Okay. These things can be understood very easily. Okay. These things are called paraverbal communication or paralinguistic communication. Okay. Non-verbal has 55% of our communication. So we find that this is the distribution of the meaning, right. So only 7% pertains to words, remaining pertains to either paralinguistic features, our voice quality and other things which are called para-verbal things, or the body language. Okay, because our actions speak volumes. Okay, whatever we maintain as a gesture or face expression, eye contact, so many things are there in non-verbal communication, which has been discussed elsewhere. And as well as the important thing is that when we are silent, okay, then also we are communicating something, and we can very easily understand this, that when we ask a person something and the other person does not respond, it has certain meaning and we have to interpret that meaning. So, that also has a certain message. Okay. So, this is the distribution given by Mehrabian. Albert Mehrabian was a very renowned researcher in the field of communication, and in his book Silent Communication he has given us that this is the distribution of meaning, okay, in the message. The words have only 7%, voice has 38%, and remaining is your face, your body language. Another method of interpersonal communication can be determined by the level of familiarity and the acquaintance between the sender and the receiver. So, we can decide the method depending upon the type of relationship between the communicators. The communicators are the sender and the receiver. So, that this may be personal and this may be impersonal. Personal, when we know that person, okay, we know that person and we have certain previous memories, previous context whenever we are talking to that person. In that mode, the interpersonal communication becomes highly personal, okay, right. A person is more involved in that communication, whether positively or negatively. Impersonal conversation is with those people whom we have just met, or there are little chances to meet them again. So, in that situation our communication or our conversation is superficial, okay, that is quite formal, highly formal. So, here we become informal and here we remain formal, no matter how informal we are trying to look, but that is superficial, okay, and it is specially related to some specific context. Means, as you visit a showroom to buy something, there the salesperson welcomes you very cordially and shows a very humble and very appeasing manners, okay, he attends you, but you know that this is going to be a very contextual interaction. You are not going to have same kind of interaction with the person in future, and you have not had that kind of interaction in past also. So, in that situation your interpersonal communication, means the communication between you and the salesperson, is highly impersonal, and it has the larger amount of formality in that. So, that is the method, being very personal and intimate, and that is determined by the type of relationship two people have and the level of acquaintance. If you know that person, then you can become slightly personal, right. So, in personal context, actually the words are not very important, okay. Non-verbal messages are more important, okay, when you are in communicating with the other person in personal method. So, your voice, your tone, your facial expression become more important, okay, and even without a speech the observer can get the cues of the meaning with the help of your posture and face expression. You can guess the emotions, you can guess the mental state or intention sometime, okay. So, mostly informal mode is followed in personal context. And impersonal context, we know that it is superficial and that is based on our social roles. So, that invites more formality, and such communication is most common in business, as I have given the example, okay. And there you do not need to rely on your emotions, okay. That is a pure you can say practical interaction. So, you focus on the talk more and you focus on the purpose of that interpersonal communication more. And in impersonal situation, in formal situation, we use less direct methods, less direct tools for communication, like email, like social network. Okay, we become more formal. Okay, more you can say courteous in that situation. Okay, and I have given this example of the sales representative and the customer. So, whether you are talking to the sales representative on phone through some means of telecommunication, or you are talking face to face, or you are having a communication in writing, in all the situation that will remain impersonal. Now, after understanding these things, we must remind ourselves of the requisites of interpersonal communication. Means, what are the requirement, what are the essential elements for interpersonal communication to occur and to be intact, right? First thing, we know that two people are involved up to the minimum level, and these two people are called communicator, then the message, then the list, then channel, noise, context, feedback and behavior. Okay. I again draw your attention towards this figure which I explained in the beginning of this lecture. This was the figure, and now we will again have a look at these requisites, because all the things which are mentioned here are the requisites. So, first of all, the people involved, right? The people are important in interpersonal communication, right? And these people are called communicators, at least two people. Okay, one is the sender and other is the receiver. You can have a look at this picture that two people are talking on phone. Okay, they are not communicating face to face, still they are in the act of interpersonal communication. Okay, and this involvement is more complex because it is a two-way process and it becomes an interactive process. One person speaks, the other person then listens, and then the other person speaks and the first person listens and tries to understand, decode the message. Okay. Next is, the important thing is the message, which we have not discussed up till now. Message is the content or the information which needs to be conveyed or shared. Okay. So, it is the content of that action. Okay. This is what we have to share. Okay. So, it is not only verbal, as we know, it may be non-verbal, right? Whatever content we share, that may have a verbal form, means in the form of words, that may not have the verbal form, that may be indicated through our other signs like body language and other written symbols. Okay. But it is necessary that verbal form must take a common code of language, means the language which is used by the communicator is commonly shared. That is very necessary. Okay, because language is the tool to communicate our intended thought or intended content. So, both the people should share the same code of language, right? And the non-verbal behavior is also taken care of, because that conveys additional information about the spoken message. We know the emotional state is reflected in our speech. We know that that is also reflected on our face. So, the personal type of relationship determines the amount of the focus on this non-verbal cue. Okay. But in impersonal situation also, we try to read the non-verbal cues to get the underlying content or the underlying messages along with the verbal content. Next element is noise, which was indicated there in the center. Means noise is something which is disturbing or which may cause some distortion or loss of the message also at times. Okay. And this is not only some unwanted sound or some, you can say, some unpleasant sound in atmosphere. It means more than that, because it means that anything, any mechanical failure, okay, any external element or any inconsistency which spoils the message at the time of transmission of the message is called noise. So, any distortion, any disturbance, any inconsistency which spoils the message at the time of transmission of the message becomes noise. It may be the disinterest of the listener, it may also be the inattention of the listener, whatever, okay, or some inappropriate body language, some wrong use of words, okay. These things are going to spoil the intended meaning, because the other person will not be able to receive the right meaning. So, these elements are called noise normally, okay. Then this noise is a mandatory part of interpersonal communication. We cannot get rid of it like other elements. This is one of the requisites, or we can say one of the essential element, because this noise element can only be limited, can made limited, it cannot be totally get rid of, okay. That is there in the atmosphere, and the effectiveness of communication lies on the efforts of minimizing the influence of these noise factors, okay. So, due to the noise, the intended meaning and the received meaning gets different, okay. So, what is received by the receiver is not exactly the same what is intended by the speaker. That is the impact, or that is the effect of noise on the content or on the whole process of communication. Then comes feedback. Feedback which is received with the help of the response made by the receiver. So, the messages the receiver returns, again it is a message, his response is a message which helps the sender to know how accurately the message has been received, okay. If you say something and the other person responds, and you try to examine, you try to estimate whether the other person is in a position to understand your intended meaning or not. So, this is how you get the feedback, with the help of the response of the other person. It may be intentional, it may be unintentional, okay. Unintentional messages are more meaningful in interpersonal communication, because people pay more attention to the body language, okay. So, as is the message, same is with the feedback, that it may be some verbal statement. The other person may say that, oh, I don't understand you, please repeat, or I don't get you, or he or she may have certain expression of question or puzzled mind on the face, okay. So, that facial expression can also be a response and a feedback for the sender. So, that feedback is called feedback because it allows the sender to regulate the attempt at encoding, or make some changes, or just repeat the message again, okay, in order to improve that communication. So, the sender is in a position to modify the message, or just to repeat the message. He gets that idea and he does so to make the meaning better understood by the receiver. Next element is context or setting. As we have discussed, that all communication is influenced by the context in which it takes place, okay. Context may be 2-3 types, like situational context, where the interaction takes place in a particular physical surrounding, like in a room, in an office, or perhaps outdoor, or on a coffee shop, okay. That makes a lot of difference, because the situation decides upon the issues, the type of information which you want to share with the other person. You try and find the suitable situation, situational context, to talk to people with particular intention. Second is the social context. Social context means the roles of the sender and the receiver. The people have a social relationship, okay. If the senior is talking to junior, two colleagues are talking, two friends are talking, like that. So, that is the social context, mean the type of relationship two people have, okay. So, the responsibilities two people have. So, that is related to the relative status of the participants, whether they are equals, they are peer people, or there is a relation of senior and junior, or friend, or whatever. So, that is the social context. And the third is the emotional context, means the emotional state of the person, okay, and whatever the other person is expecting. So, that is related to more the expectation and emotion. So, that is also a context. When the other person is expecting something else and you communicate about something else, that makes a lot of difference. Next is the channel. Channel means the medium through which you communicate. Every communication needs a channel. Okay. If we are talking face to face, air is the channel. Okay. If the receiver is at a distant place, then we use means of telecommunication. So, channel refers to the physical means by which the message is transferred from one person to the other person. So, our speech and our vision is one of the channels along with the air, okay, whenever we talk to the person face to face. So, we receive the message through our all the senses, we receive the message, we give and receive the message through all our senses, and in the means of telecommunication our voice is more important, and due to the complexity of work and due to the globalization of the work platform, the means of telecommunication are more common now. So, these were the requisites, and on the basis of these requisites there are the 4 underlying principles. We must keep these principles in mind whenever we are indulging in interpersonal communication, because if we understand these 4 principles of interpersonal communication, we are going to develop our interpersonal communication, because we have to develop communication, interpersonal communication, to be a better professional. So, these are the 4 principles, and this is a sort of repetition of our previous understanding about interpersonal communication. First is that communication is inevitable. As I said in the beginning of the lecture, that whenever we are there in the presence of some other person, we are in a state of interpersonal communication. Whether we are actually delivering some message or actually speaking or not, listening or not, but some kind of interpersonal communication is taking place. So, that is inevitable. You cannot not communicate, and we can understand that if we cannot not communicate, it means that we have to be very careful about this constant process of communication. We do not stop communicating whenever we are in presence of the other person. Okay. We give verbal and non-verbal messages, and our behavior is also one of the message for the other person. Next was communication is irreversible. That is very important, and that is I am going to say for the first time during this lecture, that communication is irreversible. Once you speak something, it cannot be unspoken. Okay. Once you show some gesture and it is noticed by the other person, it cannot be made unseen. Okay. So, communication can never be taken back. Okay. That is why from our early age we are taught that we should learn to think before what we speak. Okay. Think twice before you speak. That is advised by experienced people, because whatever you have said cannot be unsaid. Okay. So, for a competent communicator, for a professional, you should be aware of your communication, because it cannot be taken back. So, you should be very careful. Okay. You should remain positive, you should be focused on building relationship, because we know that interpersonal communication is the foundation for relationship. It is determined by relationship and it determines the relationship. So, it has a double edged you can say effect. Third principle is communication is complex. Okay. We know, we have seen a whole process of communication, there are so many things, at every stage we have to determine so many things. So, it is a systematic process where individuals interact with each other, and they interact with the help of symbols, that is language. Okay. Whether it is a verbal language or a body language or some other code language. Okay. Through that language, through those symbols of codes of that language, we create and interpret meaning. So, that is a very complex process. Okay. In verbal communication, words are the symbol. In non-verbal communication, the different gesture postures are the symbol. So, we assign a particular meaning to those symbols. Okay. And the meaning may be at 2 levels. One is the connotative, means literal definition of the word, what is there in the dictionary. Okay. That is a common meaning, but the basic meaning of the word. And the other meaning is, that is denotative meaning, means different kind of interpretation, okay, implied meaning, underlying meaning, okay. So in personal context these underlying meanings are very important, because we know that person, we know so many things, we have previous experience. So the more a person efficient in understanding this denotative meaning, the more efficient he is at interpersonal communication, the more meaningful is that communication. It is also the situation that different words mean different things to different people. That is a kind of psychological state, that is that is also taken as barrier in communication, because one person is different from the other person. So these are the things which complicate the whole process of interpersonal communication. So for a better professional, it is important that you should be aware of these complexities of interpersonal communication and try to minimize the negative effect in this process. Next is also very important, and a fact regarding communication, as we have seen that communication is contextual, okay. All communication happens in a contextual framework, okay, that, and these frameworks can be many. As first of all, psychological context means the emotional state of the communicators, and in which mood, in which emotional state the people are communicating. Next is the rational context, that is the degree of depth of reasoning, understanding of the other person, okay. What type of relationship you have with the other person, that is related to human relationships. Next is situational context, as we have said that some place is there, whether it is a coffee shop or it is office, it is some lunch room, or it is you are in lift, in a parking area. These things decide that if you are communicating officially, then the place should also be formal and official. So the things are automatically related to the situational context. And the last one is cultural context, means we come from different socio-cultural background. So there we learn different behaviors. So one particular behavior may be right and appreciable in one context, cultural context, and it may not be so good in some other cultural context. For example, this steady eye contact, it is taken as a symbol of openness, symbol of warmth in European countries, but in most of the Asian countries this steady eye contact is taken as, you can say, as improper, okay, disrespect for the other people. So this will create a sort of difference, okay. So in which cultural context you are communicating, you should be aware of these behavioral norms and other particular do's and don'ts of that particular culture, okay. So we know that interpersonal communication is part and parcel of living. We communicate every time, whether we are communicating with our friends or our colleagues. At workplace, interpersonal communication skills are very important. In general, the interpersonal communication skills are called life skills, because they make us a better living beings. They make us proficient at human relationships, formal, informal, personal, impersonal. We learn to interact with people, enjoying different kind of relationships and different type of level of acquaintance for different purposes. So at workplace or with friends and family, these interpersonal skills like effective listening skills, empathy, emotional intelligence, responsibility, these are the things which are to be understood in detail later on, but these are some of the interpersonal communication skills which help a professional to become a better person, to become a more efficient professional. So this is what with interpersonal communication. Thank you all. Jai Hind.